buddies just join in, our icebreaker question is, what is your dream vacation? Let us know in the chat. And yes, there will be a recording of this. I'm actually live streaming to our YouTube, so you're welcome to watch there if you would like as well. Awesome, we are live. So we hand it off to you, Harsha.
Great. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
No.
Uh-oh. How about now?
No.
Oh, yes, we can see it.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah. Hello all, thanks for joining us today. I'm going to be giving you a quick introduction about Design Buddies. Design Buddies was founded by Grace during pandemic for designers and aspiring designers and from around the world to connect and learn and share about design. We are all from different backgrounds, biomedical engineering, architecture, and everywhere with a common goal to use design to do something better. We do mentorship, event clubs, portfolio reviews. We have more than 27,000 members and it's growing every day. We host a lot of events and panel discussions and industry leaders from several fields in design. So next, I'm going to quickly go over the house rules. As we mentioned before, our events are recorded. It's currently live streaming on YouTube also, and you'll be able to view it later on YouTube. You can use the chat to ask any questions you have about the event, and it will be gone over at the end of the event. We'll be sharing a promotional link. Networking sheet. You can share your contact list and connect with each other there. You can also submit questions on Slido. At the end of the event, we take a group selfie and we share it on our socials. And we have a Zoom background, which I will also be sharing. So please feel free to use it. And so at the end of the video, we encourage you to share your findings on social media and tag design. Be sure to tag Design Buddies. You can use it, as I mentioned before, you can use a networking sheet to connect with each other and with the speaker and with us too. We also, please feel free to hop into our Discord to continue a conversation about the event. Since we're here to learn today, so be fun, have fun, and be respectful with each other. That's it. Bosky, would you like to share about?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to try to share my screen here.
Okay.
One second. Come on. Okay, let me see if I can share my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So just a little bit, I'm Bosky. I'm the founder of PMDojo, and PMDojo is a global and a very diverse and inclusive learning community where we help people grow in numerous different product roles or break into a product role. This could be product management, product design, user research, and all the different roles that exist within product functions. We all know that it's really, really challenging to find that first break in a product role if you've never had a formal role before in the role, because all jobs require that experience. And this was one of the primary reasons why PMDojo was created, to help people from all diverse backgrounds come in, learn, connect with hiring managers in a very safe environment and actually build that experience. So in 10 weeks, they join our product accelerator and they get to collaborate cross-functionally with developers, designers, researchers, PMs, and they actually launch a live product which is really, really cool. And we've seen some amazing results over the last 2.5 years. More than 92% of our fellows have made that transition happen. So I think when Grace and I started talking about collaborating together, I guess like maybe a year or so ago, it was really interesting to kind of collaborate with Design Buddies. And I'm really excited to formally kind of partner with such an amazing community and, help people globally. So that's a little bit about PMDojo. If anyone's interested in our product accelerator, we have a special scholarship for Design Buddies, community members. I know Grace has shared all of that in the Discord channel. So feel free. And yeah, this is, if you ever want any information about PMDojo, you can feel free to connect with me, or you can directly go to the link as well. That's it for me.
I'd like to introduce our speaker of the day. Is EunJee Hong from New York. She's an architect turned product designer. Now, currently, she's working as product designer as well as product manager at KatalystDI. She has expertise in product design, product management, and also in spatial design. She's going to talk to us today about leveling up our acumen as a designer, researcher, and product manager. Over to you, EunJee.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Okay. Let me know when you see my screen.
Looks good.
Good. Okay, cool. Right. By the way, I'm very, very nervous, so bear with me if I mumble or start breaking. So my name is EunJee Hong, and I am currently working as a product manager at KatalystDI, a startup company that optimizes construction process by integrating supply chain data. Again, I'm very, very nervous right now because I watched some of the videos from the other previous speaker, and they were really, really good. So I was like, oh, I don't know, I can pull this up. Just to differentiate myself a little bit, or today's topic, I actually decided to adjust the topic tiny bit. Because I'm coming from a design background, maybe I could just really kind of focus on that part and what actually helped me to become a product manager coming from a designer background. So before we get into the details of the topic, I would like to talk a little bit about my background. So back in undergraduate, I actually studied business, specifically finance. It was all about the numbers. It wasn't something I had dreamed of or anything like that, but I just naturally picked that major because both of my parents were coming from business backgrounds. My first internship was in my last year of school at a marketing team in an architecture company. How random is that? But it happened, and it happened to be one of the most pivotal moments in my career path. I fell in love with architecture and design. So my first plan was to ditch business school and restart everything. I wanted to apply for a design school. And can you imagine what my parents said? They're like, absolutely no. Not because they didn't want me to pursue a design career, but it's kind of stupid to restart everything. And they had a good point. So instead, I decided to finish my business school and go to architecture school after. Architecture school was rough, to say the least. I had to learn how to do a lot of research, how to do surveys. I had to learn how to do a lot of, like how to understand the site condition for your design, how to provide the best experience for the space users, and ultimately how to solve a problem. Architecture school was all about solving the problem. It was through research, iterations, experiments, and final presentation. Does this sound all very familiar? I also studied product design and graphic design as a side program. which helped me to land the job as a brand designer later in my life. Brand design was also a lot about storytelling of the brand. The reason that I'm talking all about this is to tell you that I did go through a lot of pivots in my career path, and it kind of all came together. So if you're an aspiring product manager or a product designer who is interested in learning more about the business side, I can tell you that you don't have to restart everything from scratch. You probably already have a good amount of skill sets that could help you to become a good product manager. So I would like to talk first about what business acumen is very briefly, as that definition will be something that I'll continue to use throughout my slides to build a framework. And as I've mentioned before, I would walk the slides with a focus on the designer's perspective. I know not everyone on this call is coming from a design background, but regardless of where you are or where you're coming from, I think these are the skill sets that I think will be applicable no matter what. So the topic points will be what is business acumen, how to decompose it, and why is it important for designers and how to do it. And then end with a conclusion. So what is business acumen? Business acumen is a combination of knowledge and skills informed by experience. Knowledge about the business, the skills to apply that business, and then confidence to take action from it. In other words, it's the ability to see a big picture of a situation, to weigh it up quickly, make a logical and sound decision with confidence, and influence others in order to have a positive impact towards achieving the goals of your company. Why is this important for designers to learn this? One, understanding business and becoming fluent in business language will make it easier for you to convince non-designers into user-centric ideas. Business that invest in value created by design have proven to be very quite successful in the recent years in gaining competitive advantage. So we need more designers involved in strategic decisions. And lastly, designers with the most success in our industry are business aware. It's proven. So as designers move more into the leadership role, they are going to be increasingly responsible for decisions that impact both customer value and the company bottom line. This includes budgeting, allocating resources, prioritizing, etc. These critical responsibilities are the building blocks of any type of business, regardless of what industry that you're in. For that reason, we do need some level of knowledge and skill sets in order to participate in discussing expenses, operational planning, strategy, and all the other day-to-day concerns of the company leaders. So let's go back into the definition of business acumen and decompose it together a little bit. It says to see an ability to see a big picture. So what is it exactly a big picture of a business? Now, one way to see a big picture of the business is that through industry analysis. Industry analysis is also known as a Porter's 5 force analysis. It's a very useful tool for business. It evaluates 5 competitive forces which influence industry attractiveness. How attractive is this industry, basically? The basic idea is that your product or company is not competing just with the direct competitors, but with everyone in the ecosystem. That includes customer, suppliers, and substitutes, and new entrants. So following our Porter's 5 forces, threat of new entrants. How hard is it to be for our business to enter this industry? Bargaining power of buyers. How easily can buyers drive our price down? How much negotiating power do they have? Can they ask for any price and I just kind of have to go with it? Threat of substitutes. How else can customers satisfy the same need? Can another business easily copy this product of our business or industry? Bargaining power of suppliers. How easily can suppliers drive their prices up? How well can they negotiate? And lastly, rivalry among existing competitors. How many competitors are in the industry and how strong are they? The example of this will be, for example, the threat of new entrants. The new entrants to the airline industry pose a very low threat. For example, JetBlue. The barriers to entry are remarkably high because you need several airplanes to even compete in the industry. You can't just compete with one airplane. That means you need a big initial investment. It's going to have a huge operating cost also. And there are major government regulations for companies in this industry. So therefore, it is safe to say that the threat of new entrants in the airline industry is very low, as barriers to the entry are high. You can kind of see how these airline industries or airlines are kind of pivoting themselves in the industry just because there's not much threat of new entrants. On the other hand, the threat of new entrants is relatively high for opening a restaurant compared to the airline industry. So why is this important for designers? If you know that the threat of new entrants is high and that your product can be easily copied, then you should focus your design efforts on that aspect. What can we do to differentiate our product in a defensible way? What are the unique features that the current market does not offer that I could design? Another way to see a big picture is a competitive analysis. Competitive analysis involving identifying your competitors using research to reveal their strengths and weaknesses in relation to your own. Without competitive analysis, it's difficult to know what others are doing to win clients or customers in your target market. Why is this important for you as a designer? Understanding the competitor's strategy and business model and future plan help us design better products and experiences. We can anticipate how competitors will react to our innovations and how we can differentiate better. It's creating a new unique value. This is an example of a competitor's analysis. A competitive analysis report can include business data such as revenue, market share, or product data, product feature, or customer data, target group, their reviews and ratings. When you start your competitor analysis, don't forget that there are both direct and indirect competitors to your company. Direct competitors are companies that offer the same product or service, and indirect competitors offer a different product that solves the same problem. For example, if we go back to JetBlue's direct competitor are American Airlines and Delta. In this case, the indirect competitors would be Amtrak, which offers train service for people to transit from one place to another, or even a car rental company could be your competitor in some sense. Business model is an outline of how a company intends to create and capture value. What will be the value to the customers? How is the business creating and delivering those values? How will those values eventually create revenue for the company? This is often a foundation of how business decisions are made. Examples include freemium, marketplace, subscription, and whatnot. Why is this important for you as a designer to know this? It's crucial for a designer to start looking beyond the product to really grasp how customers get value. Product design is not just how somebody uses a product, navigate through it, but also how they pay, maintain, upgrade, and dispose of a product. Figma is an example of freemium, in which the most basic version of the product or service is free, but any new or upgraded features cost money. On the other hand, Adobe Creative Suite is an example of subscription, which is based on the idea of selling a product or service to receive monthly or yearly recurring subscription. In this case, designers and product managers in Adobe Suite should really focus on customer retention over customer acquisition. So knowing your business model will help you to decide and strategize your design strategy. One of the tools we can use to understand the business model is a diagram called ecosystem map. Ecosystem map shows all the actors involved in a business and the flow of value between them. It is more or less a flow chart of a transaction between a business and its suppliers or consumer. I can give you X, and in return, you give us Y. Ecosystem maps not only help the designer to understand the relationships and dependencies between the various actors, but also identify parts of the model that might not be working well and need improvements. This is the improvement point. So let's move on to the next element of business acumen. To weigh up quickly and make a logical, sound decisions with confidence. So what goes in to making a decision? Business strategy with a business model setup is how business strategy is how you're going to do those business models better than your competitors. What should we do and what should we not do? It should be easy to see a company's strategy from a quick look at their design choices. Your design choice should reflect how your business strategy is strategizing your product. But it isn't always obvious what design choices need to be made, even if you know a company's strategy. Designer will have a substantially better idea of this. As strategy changes, so should the design. Why is this important for you as a designer? In an ideal world, every business decision, including design strategy, should align with the business strategy. So having a basic understanding of your company's strategy is extremely important for you. And this is the one way to build a business strategy. It involves what your goals are and objectives are. And this could be depending on the department that you're in. Reflection of not the business strengths and reflection of business and strengths and weaknesses. So the business strategy should reflect your business and company strengths and weaknesses. And it should hint potential risk, such as competitors, economic factors, and law changes. Coming to pretty close to the end, actually. Design metrics. Design metrics measure value created for users and provide the continuous pulse of your users. Why is this important to you as a designer? In general, more data means more informed design decisions. It also helps us avoid biased solution and help alignment among team members. It's also a good way to track progress of your design work. So to come up with the design metrics, you should ask 2 questions to yourself. What does success look like for you as to your end users? And 2, what is the main action that a user has to take to get that value from our product? So in the first question, we're identifying the product's value to the customer. For example, one of the Netflix main value proposition is providing quality movies and TV shows to the users 24/7. The second question then becomes the key product interaction that indicates the users did successfully get that value that we promised through our product. So one of the key interaction for Netflix is how many plays of the movies shows by the users. Now, how do we turn this into design metrics using the answers above? There are a few things we should consider when shaping these metrics. The metrics should be understandable. Is it easy for everyone to understand in the team and the company to understand? It should be comparable. Can you compare a different time period or groups or benchmark numbers? For example, number of events created this week versus next week. And it should be actionable. Does it give you insights on how to improve? For example, number of download of the movie, number of a download of the app would not be actionable because it will always just be increasing. Using this, one can come up with a metric such as percentage of users who watch more than 3 movies per week. This is easy to understand. You can compare the numbers from week to another, and increase or decrease of the actions provides some sort of direction for design improvement. Lastly, design business metrics. As a designer, when you present your work to non-designers in order to persuade them, you have to use their language. Business metric is like English in the business world. It is a global language that is spoken and understood by the majority of your company, and it helps alignment among the teams. By communicating the actual and provided value design brings to the business, you will find more support from your work and ideas. Why is this important for, sorry, I went for this. These are just one of the very few examples of business metrics. It could be return on investment, depending on how much it costs to build this new feature that you're proposing. What's the return on that investment? How much money are we getting out of it? Monthly or annual recurring revenue. How much money can we get through subscription? This is more of a subscription. Active users, such as daily active users, how many people are on your platform. And renewal rate, it's computed by determining the total number of subscription renewed in a given period. So these are just few examples, and there are a lot more of that. But for designers, if you can start using this language, this is a way that you can propose the design in a more structured way that is understood by the majority of your company. At the end, the goal is to pursue your ideas. And then how to connect design and business metrics. So coming from using the last two metrics, we could say, if we increase discoverability of contents on Netflix, then it will reduce the time that the user spends on searching, which will decrease friction and will increase the percentage of users who watch movies per week. In return, that can increase renewal rate. So this is how you would communicate in a sense that is design driven, but still ends with the business metric that is understandable for everyone. The last one is how to influence others. This is actually the last slide, but this is something that I actually pretty feel strong about as a product manager. Empathy and communication. So all the others were something that I think you can learn by reading, by asking questions, and to really study. Empathy and communication is something that I think both designers and product managers should be really good at. Empathy is to see the real world through another's eyes. Especially for designers, I think it was more or less a customer's eyes. It meant to understand and discover the needs of people so that designers and PMs can design a solution for them. So you guys, for designers or PMs, should already have this, But we can also use empathy to understand the business value of the clients, to understand the goal of the leadership team, your coworker who sits next to you even. Everyone has a personal and organizational goals in their roles and pain points that they're going through every day. It's what motivates them and behind the business team. So on the right, I have an empathy map that I usually use. I don't only use it for users, but I also just use it for anyone I talk to in business meeting. What motivates my boss to act in a certain way? What makes him look good? What's the pain point that he's going through? And by doing this, you will learn how to communicate with them. At the end, it's also about the communication. And you need to adapt different communication styles for different groups of people whom you have to deliver product. For example, if you're trying to roll out a design system and you're talking to your company's operation team and they're worried about cost, because that's their main concern, that's the main pain points, then frame it so that it's how much money or time you can save for everyone in design team and how much of their labor cost. So you multiply the labor cost and how much time that they're spending on building this. And then you also multiply by time. It's a huge amount of money. Focus on the cost and how much you can save. If your business leader has too many decisions to make, frame your design solution with pros and cons and recommendation. Knowing what they're going through and understanding their pain points, you can fine tune how to communicate with others and influence others in the end. So this is the conclusion. Through industry analysis and competitive analysis, you can learn the landscape of the industry that your company is in. Through business model and business strategy, you can learn how to position yourself or your company in creative competitive advantage. Through design metrics and business metrics, you can learn how to speak in their language that help your colleague understand the full value of the design. I hope this was helpful for designers and aspiring PMs to take a small first step to learn more about the business. And that is my last slide. Thank you. I know this was a little short on the slide size, but please ask any question. And it doesn't necessarily have to be about business acumen. I know PMDojo was also about like transferring from one job to another. So if you, and I'm the one who kind of went through that path also. So if you have any question about just that, feel free to ask any question.
Thank you, EunJee. This was great.
Thanks, EunJee. Do you want me to read out the questions so you can answer them?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let me start from the top.
Also, if y'all have questions, feel free to drop them again in the chat.
How would you apply metrics to research output? Asked by Bobby Bishop.
How would I apply metrics? Sorry.
To research output.
Research output?
Yeah.
How would you apply? So it will be for the research part. It will be hypothesis, right? Because like research start with a hypothesis. So when you're building your hypothesis, use that. And I'm sure unless it's a startup company, the company usually should already have the metrics. Like if you meant the business metrics, for example, they should already have that. So like when you're doing your research, bring that value into your hypothesis and have that as benchmark. How can I affect that benchmark metrics that already business have and use that as a part of my research? Because if you already have a number, your business leaderships will be very appreciative of how, because like that's an insight to them. Like that's already a value that you're using the real value in your research and how to affect that value metrics.
Great. Next.
Can I share a little bit of context onto what EunJee said? Would that be okay?
Yes, absolutely.
100% agree with what EunJee said. Sometimes what happens is that you may not get a business metric straight away from your leadership team. That happens a lot of the times, and we have to learn how to infer that. Typically requests to researchers, designers, PMs might happen in a lot of companies that say, hey, we want to design this feature. So bingo, you start researching, you start coming up with wireframes, the product managers are busy trying to come up with requirements. And a lot of the times, I think we just forget to ask the why. Why are we doing this? And how is it going to help the business? And I think that question, even though it can sound really intimidating to ask, it's really important to start asking, because every business has only limited resources. No one is here with unlimited resources, money, and things like that. So there is always a reason, even if it's a moonshot project where you're just trying to experiment and trying to come up with the next shiny object, there is always a business reason. And it's really important to understand that. And you can then start kind of correlating the metrics. Sometimes if there is nothing available, you can also use some of the heuristics that is available for either that particular industry, that particular type of company, trying to get that and then trying to improve. So that's really important. And a lot of the times when you are speaking about your accomplishment, a lot of the times what I've seen as researchers and designers, they'll talk about some of those benchmarks, but then not follow through about what happened as a result of the change, the improvement that they made. So again, if that measurement wasn't done after the end of the project, really important to, again, go back after 3 months, 6 months and trying to even figure out, or maybe a shorter period of time, what happened out of that? Were we able to increase adoption? Were we able to increase engagement? If we increased engagement, what happened to the revenue in the business? Did it increase? Did it slide down? Did it remain the same? like just asking these questions and being curious enough, I think really goes to help in tying all of those business metrics and accomplishments. Sorry, EunJee, didn't mean to cut you up. Just
No,
wanted
that's
to say that. Thank you.
Moving on to the next question. Carlos asking, when pivoting into a new role, any tips on how to best present yourself as a desirable candidate when compared to others that have the experience advantage?
So this might not work for everyone, but I'm just speaking from my personal experience. So the way that I was able to enter this product role is because I specifically applied for jobs that had to do with the industry that I was already in. Just because, like, I mean, I wanted to do something else too, but like it's just not easy, you know? So I come from architecture background and I was in construction industry. So for me to be competitive to compare to other people who were in product for a really long time, I had to bring something else. So what is it that I can bring? And my value is like people so the startup company that I'm in, it's about construction. So they do want someone who has a basic knowledge of the construction and architecture. So that was how I kind of presented myself. Like I might not be as more experienced as the others, but I do have this basic knowledge and you do not need to teach me that. And I have a lot of insights that I can bring because of that experience. So I highly recommend if you're trying to kind of break through to this kind of role, definitely go for the roles that is kind of related to what you're doing already. And then learn from it, and then you can start going into other direction if you want to. But I think it would be slightly, there's more way to present yourself in that way.
That's a great advice, EunJee. I'm also looking to go into healthcare related design roles, and I'm also working on my portfolio projects in that direction. So I can stand out from the crowd, and it's also an interesting topic I always wanted to work on. So
I'll share another kind of tip. Just again, as a hiring manager, you know, having kind of interviewing people a lot. The key difference, I think, is how do you stand out? Because a lot of the times what happens is, especially if you're trying to get your first break, you're not just competing against folks who are also trying to get the first break, you're actually competing against people who've already done the job, right? And so sometimes, you know, I always tell this to my mentees that sometimes you have to swim against the tide. And whatever the rest of the folks are doing, trying to find different ways to do it. And we all have some form of a leverage, right? Like EunJee shared, you know, for her, it was trying to leverage her architecture background and experience and all of that and move into some sort of a familiar kind of a space so that she could leverage that and she would really stand out. So that's definitely one way. I think a lot of the times, you know, you can also take stretch projects if you're already working at a company, and you can try to kind of ask for those. Usually product teams are extremely understaffed. You know, it's product managers are understaffed, designers are understaffed, researchers are understaffed. Researchers are also typically going to be one researcher for multiple teams a lot of the time. So you're really understaffed. And so anytime you can help out, whether it is for conducting research, maybe it is to kind of take notes during an interview or maybe a usability study, all of these things can actually help you build on that little bit of experience, as long as you're also able to tie what you helped move the needle. So it comes back to that business acumen as well. So always tying that, because you really need to show that you understand the business side of things. I think side projects is an amazing way to also start standing out. And I always tell this, you know, the good part of living in a very unfair world like we have today is that there are too many problems to solve. There are problems everywhere: healthcare, education, housing, finance, like everywhere. And it is about us trying to find a problem small enough that we can see that it is really a problem and then actually solve it. There are so many no-code tools available. PMDojo is there if you're looking for that extra support, but don't just stop at a case study. build that portfolio so that you can really stand out. Because at the end of the day, if you have to address the gap of an experience, you have to show that beyond doing a boot camp and doing a course or doing a case study that kind of looks great in a theoretical space and a theoretical world, but will probably fail miserably when it comes to the practical real world experience. So hopefully that made sense.
Yeah, definitely plus one. Just really quickly, I'll add. I kind of adding on the topic of problems. As a job seeker or a job interview candidate, asking the hiring manager or recruiter what problems are you facing head on, and try, if you have the related experience, emphasizing that to solve problems that they're personally facing. It makes it more personalized, because I feel like when I was job seeking 2 years ago, there was a lot of, I felt like it was all self-promoting myself, but not customizing the way I present myself in a way that solves the company's problem. So that's just another way to stand out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, the internet is like when I transitioned, that was before any resources, events, books, any of those things are there, right? So that was a different kind of a problem I had to encounter. Now there is too much information, but I think trying to, when you're interviewing, trying to find people that you're interviewing either on LinkedIn, Hacker Noon, Medium, and see what kind of writing they do and what are some of the things that they do, you will start picking up on signals on the kind of problems that their teams are trying to solve. A lot of the times, you also have the design teams, the research teams, product teams, engineering teams actually write their own blog in the companies, and they talk specifically about the kind of problems. And so that should help you prepare as well, so that you can customize and personalize the answers. And that really shows, a very thoughtful response, and you will start to stand out. So thank you, Grace. I 100% agree with that.
The next question is from Bobby. How do you help people see past the short-term downsides for something that will have a long-term benefit, huge long-term benefit?
How do you help people see past the short-term? Oh, okay. Sorry, just trying to understand the question a little bit. For me, so this is me speaking as a PM, but I think, and Bosky, maybe you can help me with this. But for me, I think roadmap is how you can kind of, because you see something, ooh, this is gonna have a not a good effect right away. But in the long term, where you will look at that is a roadmap. And roadmap should be like a annually, quarterly, and monthly, and then even smaller. But that's how you can kind of pull yourself to see beyond the short-term effect. Eventually, if in a long term, if this is where we are trying to get to, I think that's one way I can kind of communicate with the team that hey, I understand your concern, but let's look at this together, and this is how we would like to get there in the long term. And in doing that, I think I can make sure that we're all aligned. And as long as I think they can see the overall goal, I think a lot of time people do get to align on that. Bosky?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think some of the struggles that I had, in my career multiple times, not just once. So it wasn't gee, I had some answer or some, thing, and it was a foolproof way. It is very, very challenging because businesses are very fluid, very, very fluid. And then to make the matter even more challenging is that I think as human beings, we are also more fluid. We are very fluid. We have personal agendas and all of those things. And the strategy and all of that is great, but a lot of the things can happen on a more frequent basis that would actually change what we had all agreed, and it becomes really frustrating for a lot of people in product, right? Because we kind of get into the middle of solving all of these different dynamics and politics in companies. And so I think something that has helped me, and this was one of my mentors told me this a long time ago. I didn't quite appreciate when he had mentioned this to me, but over the years, I think once I got to the other side of the table in the exec room, I really started understanding, and that was, we have to understand the short term, the midterm, and the long term goals of the business. And it's really important to understand, but at the same time, it's also important to understand what is happening in the industry at large and the market dynamics, because that might influence what we are trying to help others in the organization see. So even if something that may be really good for long-term in the company, it may not be the best decision to make in the short term. So I'll give a real personal example. I was a director of product at a company, and we were, the product was like a 22-year-old product, a lot of tech debt, a lot of design debt, a lot of process debt, like all the debt possible. To even make a small change in the UI, it would take months to do it, and it would cause lots of bugs because the business logic was so convoluted, right? A lot of you can probably guess how frustrating it was. And so, of course, it made a lot of sense from all of the product teams, designers, researchers, PMs, that we need to overhaul the user experience. It just made a lot of sense, right? But in order to do that, there was a lot of work that had to be done. At the same time, the company was getting prepared to be sold. The rest of the employees didn't know about it because, of course, this kind of a update is not shared widespread in a company because it was so much in early stages. And so even though the long-term decision was to overhaul, rewrite, re-architect, we had to take a very different approach when it came to evolving the product. And that was through integrations and very, very strategic APIs and extensions to kind of broaden the ecosystem. So had I not understood that from a business level and what the business is trying to do and what is happening in the broader industry, it would have been really difficult to bring everything together. So I think the starting point is you want to understand what's happening in the industry and the market, because those dynamics are very, very crucial in terms of how the business itself needs to adjust, because sometimes you may have to play a defensive game, sometimes you may have to play an offensive game. And then it's really important to start inferring the short-term, long-term, mid-term goals within the company. And this can happen when you start building relationships with, folks from outside of your teams, senior leaders, really trying to have those conversations and then trying to see what makes sense. And sometimes you have to hold to your guns and say this is the right decision as long as we are using a very evidence and data-backed approach as opposed to making it personal and subjective, because a lot of the times design can be subjective. So at the end of the day, again, tying it back to the business goals and the metrics. So hopefully this helped and I didn't confuse everyone.
Thanks for answering, Boskin. The next question is from William. If you had to make a business or competitor analysis, where would you find the metrics you mentioned, like YRR or MRR and such?
Your company should have it. Typically, your company should have it, and this is a great opportunity for you to actually connect with them. I've never met anyone, at least in my experience, that if I ask, hey, I am really interested in learning this, can you show me where it is? I've never met anyone who was like, no way. They're actually very happy that you're interested in your work. And just like phrase it like, I'm interested in your objective and what you're trying to figure out so that I can also help that, like for you to reach that goal. What are you trying to reach? Everyone probably should have like objectives, department should have objectives, they should have their OKRs on all these metrics that they're benchmarking. Ask them where it is, where I can get it, and like what is that you're trying to accomplish this quarter, for example, and they will be happy to show you. If you really do not have it, because it's like a brand new company that started like 2 months ago, you don't need to have like this very precise number, but like just come up with your own metrics that you can start on, and then as you're doing more research, you can accurately adjust that metrics as well.
Cool. The next question is from Tofunmi. As a product manager, after presenting a product brief, how do I come up with MVPs?
So I'll speak for myself, and maybe also Bosky has some more experience. But for me, it's really like Bosky said earlier, that it's always fluctuating. There's always changes. There's always new information coming in that may or may not affect the feature. So my number one question to come up with the MVP is what's the core? What's the something that most likely not change. Like there are a lot of things that the companies do, but like eventually there will be a core part that will not change no matter what, because that's just how the business goal and business objective set up. I would try to stick with that and then my build MVP around that, and everything else could have effect on change, or they could pivot or whatnot, but like there will be something that shouldn't change.
Thank you, EunJee. I think from my perspective, first of all, I think it depends on how granular and what form the product brief is, because I've seen so many different variations of product brief itself. So it really depends. It also depends on whether it is a 0 to 1 product, which means that there is nothing in existence and you are responsible for coming up with that first version that is out in the market, or whether there is already an existing product and you're trying to incrementally improve it. So how do you go about kind of is going to change on the context of the company. It'll also change on the culture of the company, because again, the way you design and build products is very much an art and less of a science. And so those, the way you're going to do and the philosophy within the companies are very, very different. But at a broader level, you have to I think a lot of people think that MVP, and again, I'm assuming here that MVP is that first version that goes out into the market, into the hands of the customers, and not a prototype. So this is mine, because again, for me, a prototype, until you release it to the hands of the customers, it is a prototype. It is basically, you can kind of throw it away. Once you have some sort of an idea for what the opportunity is and why it makes sense to do it, among all the different ideas that might be floating around in the company, it is really about taking a very scrappy approach, and you want to test and invalidate as well all of your hypotheses and assumptions as quickly as possible. Start kind of coming up with some sort of concepts for what the solution might look like once you have definitely understood the problem, because I think the problem space is what makes it really, really hard. Oftentimes, people have different understanding of the problem. The problem can have subproblems, the problem can have adjacent problems. And so it's really important to identify the right pain point and for the right group of target users that you want to solve the problem. And you want to pick a problem that if you don't solve that and you solve something else, it's not going to make a difference. So you have to pick and be able to identify a pain point or a problem that is so important that if you don't solve it, nothing else will matter, right? And once you do that, it is about finding the scrappiest, the quickest, and the fastest way to come and get into the hands of the users, whether that is with a quick wireframe, a quick prototype, you take it to the user. Don't get yourself so attached to the designs, because it's going to be really hard to throw away. My boss at Atlassian, she was so amazing that she was able to do like thousands of tests in a day. I can do 100 tests, but that's about it. I have been trying to stretch myself to do more, but really be ready to throw away, because oftentimes what I like or what we like is irrelevant because I'm not the target user. So it's really important to get it into the hands of the users and then come up with the fastest way to build. Not everything has to be built, the back logic. You need to get it into the hands of users, because I think as humans, we are terrible. We can say we are going to do X, but when it comes to doing it, we might actually do Y, which is why I think a lot of the time user testing is also not a true representation of what users will actually do when they get their hands into the product. So again, I think that would be something, and keep it small. Like you wanna nail the experience and nail that first thing that goes into it before you start scaling. So there's a saying in startup, nail before you scale. So really scrappy, I think think scrappy and get your MVP out into the hands of users and then start measuring. So I think that would be my perspective.
Cool. The next question is from Perry. What is the difference between business acumen and financial literacy, or are they loose terms?
So in my opinion, financial literacy is a part of the business acumen, but business acumen is something, business acumen is like using that financial literacy. How do I make a good sound decision, and how do I link like this cause and effect and communicate? Like it's like more holistic way to look at it. And financial literacy is as a part of something that you can have as a business acumen.
The next question is from Yasi Chen. How and should junior UX designers become part of the conversation and give input to strategic decision making?
So this is like a one way that how I did it, is that when you talk, I mean, do always communicate, do always talk to them, and then just be like, just interested in them, have that empathy map about them, like what are their pinpoints and what are their goals, what are they trying to achieve. I think that will help you how to frame how to talk to them. And another way is I always would say something like, as a junior designer, these are things that I did, but this is my recommendation, or this is my like, you put last inputs on top of it, like just to kind of prove that you are not just doing this, but you put thinking to it, and this is my best recommendation, but it's up to you. And when you phrase it like that, they start trusting you. They like, I mean, you give them a reason why you picked that way, and they start trusting you, and then that's how you build the trust first. And I think once the trust is there, I think they will start engaging more with you in that term.
Cool. Thanks for answering questions, EunJee and Bosky. Great. I think we'll move to a photo session.
Yeah, we can do a group photo. There's like this one last question that Justin asked. Yeah, let's, as we answer our last question, feel free to turn on your cameras. You can bring any object you want. I have waffle with me in our group photos, and we can go through our last question for our group photo. So let's.
I don't have anything here. I have very minimal space here. Nothing but my laptop.
Just have water.
Oh, no worries. As buddies turn on their cameras, do you want to go through the last question by Justin?
Oh yeah. How does one accumulate experience through internships and volunteering, specifically through what avenues for Canadians and Americans?
So how does someone accumulate experience through internships and volunteering? Bhakti, I think you're expert on this, because I think I heard you talk about this actually on YouTube.
Ah, you did. I think side projects, I think we were talking about it, a few minutes ago. Pick a problem, try to solve it, try to find your friends if you can, and just, you can also use no-code platforms and try to kind of build that, right? Second thing, I think when you're trying to find volunteering, know that not all volunteering opportunities are equal. So if you're interested in product management, design, or research, and you are volunteering on a marketing aspect, right, and you're doing maybe social media, you may not be able to fill the full gap of what that experience is needed. So I think it's very important to be intentional about what kind of volunteering opportunities you want to pick on. Also know that when you're volunteering, you want to make sure, what do you want to get out of it in the end? So if you're looking for references, if you're looking to learn, if you're looking to get mentorship, like, it's very important that typically in a lot of volunteering opportunities, you may not get mentorship. You may not get that skin in the game from that other party. So it's very important to set those expectations. I think joining communities like PMDojo and Design Buddies is extremely, extremely helpful to start building that. I know Grace has done such an amazing work in trying to get the community involved. I think when it comes to US and Canada, there are lots of companies that actually post internship opportunities. Of course, it's extremely, extremely competitive to get there, but that shouldn't stop us from trying. But all of those internship opportunities do have deadlines. So it's very important to start searching for them. Some of the bigger companies will, of course, have their schedules up, and they'll typically post it on LinkedIn and other platforms. But a lot of people, I think they miss the opportunities in smaller companies and startups. So a lot of the times, because they are not going to have so much of resources to be posting and may not have a formal internship program, but you can always join as an intern. So we see a lot of folks from PMDojo kind of use that route. And if you're already working at a company, take on stretch projects. Ask those teams, those product teams who are understaffed, for how you can start helping them, and gradually you'll be able to build up those experiences. Hopefully I was able to answer that. Join PMDojo if you want to kind of leverage that experience. So shameful plug there.
Awesome. Love the confident plug. That's what I do with Design Buddies. Yeah, with that, let's do our group photo. We're gonna do a static one first and a wave for our Instagram story. This is kind of like what we like to do to spice up Design Buddies. So I'll count down 5 seconds so we can smile, and I do another wave. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, smile. Cool. Took it. Let's do our wave for our Instagram story. All right, ready? You can just like wave, dance, dab, do whatever you want. Ready, set, wave. Hello, buddies. Thank you all for coming to level up your business acumen with our speaker EunJee and our buddies at PMDojo. Hope to see you at our next event, and recording is on YouTube. Cool. So this will be on our Instagram story. It's just something that I like to randomly do. But yeah, thanks y'all for joining. If y'all looking for jobs, we also have a job board and lots of volunteering opportunities posted in our Discord channel. So feel free to hop in. And yeah, I think that concludes our event. Sometimes I like to end with like, since we want our buddies to connect with each other, so this is a time to shamefully plug your LinkedIn links, because now we're not looking for questions in the chat. So just plug away in the chat, buddies, and connect with each other.
We also have a networking sheet. Please feel free to add your contact info there and connect with each other.
Yes, networking sheet. Okay, yeah, go connect with each other and send each other a personalized invite saying y'all met from Design Buddies, and be buddies for life.
Thank you, Grace. This was a lot of fun. And thank you, EunJee. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for doing this. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.